The vast darkness of space surrounded the hegemony warship Asterisk Inevitable Asterisk. Admiral Thax stood tall on the command bridge, his four eyes fixed on the main screen. The small blue-green planet rotated slowly in the display. It looked so simple, so unimportant. "Is this really the next target?" Thax asked, his voice echoing in the quiet command center. Commander Drell stepped forward with a datapad. "Yes, Admiral. Planet designation, Earth by the natives. Mostly water, 7 continents, single moon. Technology level, basic space travel within their own system only. No FTL capabilities. Standard conquest profile." Thax nodded. The hegemony had done this hundreds of times before. Find a developing world, show overwhelming force, accept their surrender, and add their resources to the empire. It was simple. It was routine. "Begin standard first contact protocol," Thax ordered. "Send the diplomatic vessel. Show them our size and strength. Accept their surrender by tomorrow." "Yes, Admiral," Drell replied with a bow. The diplomatic shuttle launched from the Asterisk Inevitable Asterisk with 12 crew members. It was designed to impress. Gleaming metal that shifted colors in the light, engines that made almost no sound, and weapons visible but not threatening. The message was clear. Resistance would be pointless. On Earth, the governments had already detected the alien ships 3 weeks ago. They had watched, waited, and prepared in secret. When the diplomatic shuttle entered Earth's atmosphere, it was tracked by every military installation on the planet. The shuttle landed in an open field outside what humans called Geneva. A welcoming committee waited. Military officers from Earth's most powerful nations, scientists, and government leaders. They stood in a half-circle, faces showing no fear. The shuttle's door opened with a soft hiss. The alien diplomat stepped out, standing nearly 7 feet tall with bluish skin and multiple eyes. They wore what looked like liquid metal armor that flowed with their movements. "People of Earth," the lead diplomat began in perfect English, thanks to their advanced translation technology. "I am First Emissary Locke of the Galactic Hegemony. We have come to welcome your world into our empire. Your surrender will ensure a peaceful transition. Resistance is." General Marcus Hill stepped forward from the human group. "We have a response prepared for your empire," he said calmly. He handed the alien a small metal box with a simple button. "This contains our answer." The alien took the box, looking confused. Such a primitive device. When he pressed the button, a holographic message appeared above it. The message was simple. "We have studied your kind for longer than you know. We have analyzed your technology, your biology, your tactics. We know your weaknesses. Leave our solar system now. This is your only warning." The alien laughed. A strange bubbling sound. "You misunderstand. We are not asking. The hegemony spans 3 spiral arms of this galaxy. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Your primitive technology cannot possibly." "You have 24 hours to leave," General Hill interrupted. "After that, we will consider your presence an act of war." The alien diplomats looked at each other, clearly amused by such boldness from a pre-FTL species. They had heard empty threats before from other worlds. All had fallen. "We will return tomorrow for your surrender," Emissary Locke said before turning back to the shuttle. As the diplomatic vessel lifted off, Commander Drell watched from orbit with interest. "What did they say, Emissary?" "They threatened us," Locke replied with amusement. "They claim to know our weaknesses and demand we leave." Admiral Thax laughed when he heard the report. "How predictable. Prepare the first wave of destroyers. We'll show them a small demonstration of our power. Target their largest military installations, but avoid major population centers for now. Standard intimidation protocol." What the hegemony forces didn't know was that beneath the surface of Earth, massive underground facilities hummed with activity. Scientists and engineers worked frantically around strange technology. Technology that looked suspiciously similar to hegemony designs, but modified in ways the aliens would never expect. In a deep bunker, General Hill spoke to the United Earth Defense Council. They reacted exactly as we predicted. Arrogant. Dismissive. And the tracking devices, asked the council president. Planted successfully on their shuttle. We can now track every movement of their fleet. Hill nodded to a technician who brought up a holographic display showing the positions of all hegemony ships. Phase 1 complete. Prepare Project Thunderbolt. Above the planet, Admiral Thax gave the order to begin the show of force, completely unaware that humans weren't like any species the hegemony had ever encountered before, and they were about to learn this lesson the hard way. The hegemony destroyers moved into position above Earth's atmosphere. There were 50 of them, each shaped like a curved blade with glowing blue engines. They were arranged in the standard hegemony intimidation formation, a perfect half-circle visible from the ground below. Admiral Thax watched from the comfort of the inevitable asterisk. Begin the demonstration. Target their largest military base in the region they call North America. Minimal casualties, maximum visual impact. On Earth, people looked up at the night sky with a mix of fear and determination. The alien ships were clearly visible, their engines creating new constellations above major cities. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in a facility known only as Bunker 1, General Hill and the Earth Defense Council monitored the hegemony fleet's movements. The massive underground command center buzzed with activity as technicians and officers prepared for what would come next. "They're charging weapons," announced Major Tom Reed, his eyes fixed on the main screen. "Targeting Peterson Space Force Base." General Hill nodded. "Right on schedule. Is Thunderbolt ready?" Dr. Emma Logan stepped forward, her face tense but confident. "Yes, sir. But we should give them one more chance. If we activate Thunderbolt now, there's no going back. The hegemony will know we have their technology." Hill considered this for a moment. "Send the final warning. Make it clear what they're facing." On the bridge of the inevitable asterisk, communications officer Ziv turned to Admiral Thax with surprise. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Earth on all frequencies. They're broadcasting in our native language." Thax raised his eyebrow ridges in surprise. "How is that possible?" "Put it through." The main screen flickered, and the image of General Hill appeared. He wore a simple dark uniform with minimal decoration, nothing like the ornate military dress the hegemony expected from primitive worlds. "This is General Marcus Hill of the United Earth Defense Force," he began, his voice translated perfectly into the clicking, chirping language of the hegemony. "Your demonstration force has been targeted by our defensive systems. We have studied your kind for decades. We know about the weaknesses in your shield harmonics. We know about the critical flaws in your gravity drive systems." Admiral Thax leaned forward, his 4 eyes narrowing. "Impossible. They couldn't know. You believe yourselves to be superior because you've only conquered peaceful, unprepared worlds," Hill continued. "Humanity is different. We evolved as predators. Our entire history is warfare and adaptation. When we detected your scout ships 3 years ago, we prepared." The general's face was replaced by images that made Thax's blood run cold. The screen showed detailed schematics of hegemony ship designs, weapon systems, and even the biological makeup of their species. "How did they get this information?" Commander Drell whispered, his voice shaking. Hill's face returned to the screen. "We captured one of your scout ships that crashed in what you call our Arctic region 20 years ago. We reversed engineered your technology. We improved it. This is your final warning. Leave our solar system now, or we will demonstrate exactly what we've learned." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the inevitable asterisk in stunned silence. Commander Drell was the first to speak. "Sir, this changes everything. If they truly have our technology." "They're bluffing," Thax snapped, though uncertainty crept into his voice. "No pre-FTL species could understand our systems, let alone improve them. Continue with the demonstration. Target their military base now." In Bunker 1, General Hill watched as the hegemony destroyers maintained their position. "They're still charging weapons," Major Reed reported. "They didn't believe us." Hill sighed. "I didn't think they would. Their empire has never faced real resistance before." He turned to Dr. Logan. "Activate Thunderbolt. Target the lead destroyer only. Let's show them we weren't bluffing." Dr. Logan nodded grimly and pressed her palm against a scanner. A voice announced, "Thunderbolt system activated. Target locked." From 6 different locations around Earth, hidden facilities powered up. What happened next would change the course of galactic history forever. Above Earth, the lead hegemony destroyer suddenly shuddered. Its blue engines flickered and went dark. The gravity systems that held the ship together failed catastrophically. The destroyer didn't explode. It simply fell apart, pieces drifting away from each other in the vacuum of space. Admiral Thax stared in horror at the screen. "What just happened?" he demanded. No one on the bridge could answer. None of them could believe what they had just witnessed. Somehow, the humans had disabled a hegemony warship without firing a single visible weapon. On Earth, General Hill's voice was steady as he opened the channel again. "That was one ship, Admiral. We can do the same to your entire fleet. You have 1 hour to leave our solar system. There will not be another warning." Admiral Thax paced the command bridge of the inevitable asterisk, his clawed feet clicking against the metal floor. The pieces of the destroyed destroyer still floated in Earth's orbit, a silent warning that the humans were not bluffing. "Sir, the 1-hour deadline is approaching," Commander Drell said quietly. Thax stopped pacing and stared at the view screen showing the blue-green planet below. In 6,000 years of hegemony expansion, no pre-FTL species had ever destroyed a hegemony warship. It defied all logic. It challenged everything he believed about his empire's superiority. "Send a message to High Command," Thax ordered. "Tell them we face unusual resistance, and the remaining ships in our demonstration force." Drell asked. Thax's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of his internal conflict. To retreat would show weakness. To stay might mean destruction. His pride won out. "Maintain position. Reconfigure shield harmonics to random frequencies. Whatever weapon they used won't work twice." He straightened his back. "Begin the bombardment as planned." On Earth, in Bunker 1, Major Reed's console lit up with alerts. "General, they're adjusting their shields. They're also moving their ships into attack formation." General Hill nodded grimly. They'd made their choice. Activate all Thunderbolt platforms. Target every ship in their demonstration fleet. Around the world, hidden facilities powered up once more. These weren't conventional weapon platforms. There were no missiles, no lasers, no projectiles of any kind. Instead, each facility generated a specific quantum field that targeted the unique signature of hegemony gravity drive systems. In space, the effect was immediate and devastating. 49 hegemony destroyers simply failed. Their artificial gravity reversed. Their shield generators imploded. Their weapon systems overloaded. Some ships split apart. Others crumpled inward like crushed soda cans. A few simply went dark, their crews dying as life support systems failed. In less than 30 seconds, the entire demonstration fleet was destroyed or disabled. Admiral Thax watched in horror as the reports came in. 3,000 hegemony soldiers dead in seconds, without the humans firing what any spacefaring civilization would recognize as a weapon. "Impossible," he whispered. "How could they?" "Sir," Communications Officer Ziv interrupted, voice shaking. "We're receiving another transmission from Earth." The view screen changed to show General Hill again. He looked tired but determined. Behind him, human military officers worked at control stations that looked disturbingly similar to hegemony designs. "Admiral Thax," Hill said calmly, "your demonstration force has been neutralized. We did not want this violence. You forced our hand." Thax fought to control his anger. "What weapon is this? How did you acquire such technology?" "We told you. We've been studying your kind for decades. The scout ship we captured was just the beginning. We've been intercepting your communications, analyzing your technology." Hill's expression hardened. "But that's not what you should be asking." "What should I be asking?" Thax demanded. "You should be asking why we haven't destroyed your command ship yet." Hill let that sink in. "We're giving you one chance to leave and deliver a message to your high command." On the screen behind Hill, images appeared showing detailed schematics of the Asterisk and Inevitable Asterisk, including its critical systems, weak points, and crew quarters. "This is the message. Earth is not a conquest. Humanity is not like the other species you've subjugated. We fight back. We adapt. We overcome." Hill leaned forward. "If the hegemony returns with a larger force, we will consider it an act of war against our entire species, and we will respond accordingly." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge of the Asterisk and Inevitable Asterisk in stunned silence. Commander Drell finally spoke. "Sir, we should retreat. Report this to High Command immediately." Admiral Thax stared at the planet below. His pride demanded revenge, but his duty to the hegemony required him to report this unprecedented threat. With great reluctance, he gave the order. "Set course away from this system. Maximum speed." As the Asterisk and Inevitable Asterisk turned away from Earth, Thax made a silent vow. This wasn't over. The hegemony had conquered 1,000 worlds. One rebellious planet would not defy them for long. In Bunker 1, General Hill watched as the hegemony command ship retreated. "They're leaving the system," Major Reed confirmed. "They'll be back," Dr. Logan said quietly. "And next time, they'll bring their full fleet." Hill nodded. "And we'll be ready. Project Spearhead is already underway. When the hegemony returns, they'll find humanity has more surprises waiting." Across Earth, people watched the skies as the lights of alien ships faded. The first battle against the galactic hegemony had been won, but the war was just beginning. 3 weeks after Admiral Thax's retreat, the dark space beyond Neptune lit up with hundreds of flashpoints. The hegemony had returned, and this time they had brought their full battle fleet. High Commander Orcs stood on the command deck of the Asterisk Dominion Asterisk, the largest warship in the hegemony armada. At 3 miles long, it carried enough firepower to reduce a planet's surface to molten slag. "Status report," Orcs demanded, his gravelly voice echoing across the bridge. Admiral Thax, now demoted for his earlier failure, stepped forward. 500 ships have successfully arrived, High Commander. We are positioned beyond the range of the human weapon system." Orcs nodded, his 6 warrior medals clinking against his chest plate. "You're certain of this range?" "Yes, High Commander. Our analysis of the destroyed ships indicates their weapon has limited reach. From this distance, we can bombard their planet safely." On Earth, alarm systems blared in Bunker 1 as sensors detected the massive fleet's arrival. "They've learned," General Hill observed grimly. "They're staying outside Thunderbolt's effective range." Major Reed looked up from his console. "Sir, we're detecting energy buildups in their fleet. They're preparing for long-range bombardment." Dr. Logan stepped forward, her face tense but determined. "It's time for Phase 2, General." Hill nodded. "Launch the Phantom ships." Deep beneath the waters of Earth's oceans, hidden bases activated. Doors slid open in the seabed, and sleek black vessels rose silently toward the surface. They were unlike any ships humans had publicly built before. No visible engines, no external weapons, their hulls absorbing rather than reflecting light. Once clear of Earth's atmosphere, the Phantom ships engaged their main drives. Technology reverse-engineered from the hegemony, but modified in ways the aliens had never considered. They didn't so much fly through space as slip between its fabric, appearing and disappearing like ghosts. Aboard the Asterisk Dominion Asterisk, a junior sensor officer frowned at his display. "Sir, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures near our fleet." Before Orcs could respond, the first Phantom ships arrived. They materialized directly alongside the largest hegemony warships, attaching themselves like remoras on sharks. "What are those?" Orcs demanded, pointing at the view screen where a black object had appeared alongside their hull. "Unknown, High Commander," Fax replied, his voice tight with concern. "They weren't there a moment ago." Throughout the hegemony fleet, similar black objects appeared, small compared to the massive warships, but clearly artificial. On the Dominion's bridge, alarms began to sound. "Sir, our drive systems are experiencing interference," the engineering officer reported. Orcs' four eyes widened. "Activate emergency protocols. Begin bombardment immediately." But it was too late. The Phantom ships weren't weapon platforms. They were dimensional anchors, creating localized distortions in space-time that prevented the hegemony vessels from engaging their faster-than-light drives or firing their main weapons. In Bunker 1, General Hill received the confirmation he was waiting for. "All anchors deployed and functioning," reported Major Reed. 80% of their fleet is locked down. "Launch the attack force," Hill ordered. From behind Mars, a fleet of human warships emerged. They had been hiding in the planet's shadow, waiting for this moment. These weren't the small, primitive spacecraft the hegemony expected from a pre-FTL civilization. These were warships built with a combination of human ingenuity and adapted alien technology. On the Dominion's bridge, panic began to spread as the sensor officer shouted, "High Commander, human vessels approaching from the fourth planet. Hundreds of them." Orcs stared in disbelief at the tactical display. The human ships moved in formations no hegemony commander would ever use. Unpredictable, chaotic patterns that made targeting nearly impossible. "Impossible," he whispered. "How could they build such a fleet in secret?" Admiral Fax's voice was hollow with realization. "They've been preparing for us for longer than we knew. This was never going to be a standard conquest." The first human warships came within range and opened fire. Their weapons weren't the primitive nuclear missiles or laser systems the hegemony expected. Instead, they fired concentrated bursts of the same energy that powered the Thunderbolt system, directly targeting the hegemony ship's gravity drives and shield generators. As the first hegemony ships began to break apart, High Commander Orcs gave the order he had never expected to give. "All ships, defensive positions. Prepare for battle." The greatest fleet in the galaxy found itself trapped and under attack by a species they had dismissed as primitive just weeks before. The real war had begun. The void of space lit up with explosions as human ships engaged the trapped hegemony fleet. What should have been a quick victory for the galaxy's dominant empire had turned into their worst nightmare. High Commander Orcs gripped the arms of his command chair as the Dominion shook from another hit. "Status report," he shouted over the blaring alarms. 30% of the fleet is disabled or destroyed," reported the tactical officer, his voice trembling. "The human ships are targeting our drive systems and shield generators with extreme precision." "How?" Orcs demanded. "How do they know exactly where to hit us?" On the main view screen, a human ship performed an impossible maneuver, seeming to phase partially out of reality to avoid hegemony fire before reappearing to deliver a devastating counterattack. Admiral Fax studied the battle with growing dread. "Sir, they're not fighting like a primitive species. Their tactics, their technology. It's as if they've been studying space warfare for centuries." In the lead human battleship Defiance Captain Ben Taylor watched the battle unfold through a neural interface that connected his mind directly to the ship's systems. The technology was a human innovation built on hegemony neural science, allowing him to feel the ship as an extension of his own body. "Target the command ship's lateral shield generators," he ordered calmly. Groups 3 and 4 continued disabling their support vessels. His second-in-command, Commander Lisa Foster, monitored the battle statistics. "Hegemony forces are attempting to regroup near the gas giant's moon. They're trying to use its gravity to break free of our anchors." "They're learning," Taylor nodded. but not fast enough. Activate the broadcast. Throughout the Hegemony fleet, every communication system suddenly activated at once. Screens flickered to show the face of General Hill. "Attention Hegemony forces," he began, his voice calm and measured. "Your ships are trapped. Your weapons are ineffective against our defenses. Your tactical options are exhausted." On the Dominion Orcs watched with growing rage. "Shut it off." "We can't, sir," the communications officer replied. "They've overridden our systems." Hill continued, "What you're witnessing is not the full extent of human military capability. This is merely what we prepared in the short time since we detected your empire's existence." The broadcast shifted to show vast underground facilities on Earth where humans worked on technologies clearly derived from hegemony designs, but modified in ways that made the aliens' blood run cold. "You believe your empire was invincible because you've only conquered peaceful species," Hill explained. "But humans evolved differently. On our world, prey animals developed speed. Herd animals developed cooperation. Predators, like us, develop ways to kill." The images changed to show human history, brief glimpses of warfare across centuries, the rapid advancement from spears to nuclear weapons in a time span that made even the ancient hegemony seem slow to innovate. In just the past 100 years, we went from primitive flight to landing on our moon. Another 50 years later, we had probes at the edge of our solar system. We advance faster under pressure. We innovate when threatened. Your arrival was the greatest motivation humanity has ever had. In Bunker 1, Dr. Logan watched the battle through advanced sensors. "The dimensional anchors are holding, General. Their main fleet can't escape." Hill nodded. "What about their communication buoys?" 3 have launched trying to reach hegemony space with warnings. Our intercept ships are moving to destroy them." On the Dominion tactical displays showed more hegemony ships falling to the human assault. The alien vessels that still functioned were forming a defensive sphere, a last-ditch protection formation. "High Commander," Thax said quietly, "we should consider." He hesitated, the words almost impossible to speak. "We should consider surrender terms." Orcs turned all 4 eyes to his subordinate, rage evident in their yellow glow. "The hegemony does not surrender." "Sir," Thax insisted, "we've lost nearly half our fleet to a species that shouldn't even have space travel. Something is very wrong here. If we die, the Empire will never know what they're facing." As if hearing their conversation, General Hill's broadcast continued. "We're giving you one chance, Commander Orcs. Surrender your remaining forces and we will spare your lives. Refuse, and we will destroy every ship, keeping only enough prisoners to deliver our message." Orc stared at the human on the screen, hatred burning in his chest. After 6 millennia of uncontested conquest, the hegemony faced a choice it had never encountered before: surrender or annihilation. The choice was made even more bitter by the knowledge that they had been warned. The humans had told them to run. They hadn't listened. High Commander Orc stood in the human detention center, his once proud uniform now stripped of its rank insignia. The room was simple but not uncomfortable: white walls, a metal table, and 2 chairs. Through the clear barrier, he could see armed human guards watching him carefully. The door slid open, and General Hill entered along with a human female Orcs hadn't seen before. "High Commander," Hill said with a small nod, "thank you for agreeing to speak with us." Orcs' upper lip curled. "I had little choice in the matter." "This is Dr. Emma Logan," Hill continued, gesturing to the woman. "She leads our hegemony technology adaptation program." Dr. Logan placed a small device on the table. When activated, it projected a hologram of the solar system with the current positions of all remaining hegemony and human ships. The display showed what Orcs already knew: the battle was over. The once mighty hegemony fleet was now mostly debris or captured vessels. 312 of your ships destroyed," Hill said quietly. 97 captured. The rest escaped to carry our message back to your empire." Orcs stared at the display, still struggling to understand how such a defeat was possible. "You said you would explain. So explain." Dr. Logan nodded and touched the device again. The hologram changed to show a small damaged spacecraft. 27 years ago, this Hegemony scout ship crashed in our Arctic region, she began. There were no survivors, but the ship's computer core was largely intact. It took us 5 years just to understand your language and technology. Another 5 to begin adapting it to our needs. Orcs' 4 eyes blinked in surprise. A single scout ship couldn't possibly contain enough information to. "It didn't," Hill interrupted, "but it contained something more valuable. Access codes to your Empire's communication network." The hologram shifted again, showing streams of data flowing between distant points of light, hegemony worlds and outposts. "Your Empire transmits vast amounts of information between star systems," Dr. Logan continued. "Military reports, technological specifications, cultural data, battle tactics. For 17 years, we've been intercepting and decoding these transmissions." Orcs felt a cold sensation in his stomach. "Impossible. Our encryption is advanced, yes," Logan nodded, "but not unbreakable. Especially when we have your own computers to help us understand it." Hill leaned forward. "While your Empire was conquering peaceful worlds, we were learning everything about you. Your weapons, your shields, your FTL drives. But most importantly, we learned how you think." The hologram changed again, showing enormous underground facilities on Earth. "When we confirmed your Empire's existence and expansionist nature, humanity united as never before," Hill explained. "Every nation pooled resources. Old enemies became allies. We built these facilities to develop defenses and weapons based on your technology. But not exact copies," Logan added. "We improved them. Your gravity drives, for example. We found a way to make them 30% more efficient by altering the quantum field harmonics." Orcs stared at the humans with new understanding. "You're not just using our technology. You've been advancing it." "Yes," Hill confirmed. "Your Empire has been technologically stagnant for centuries. You haven't needed to innovate because no one could oppose you. But humans," he smiled slightly, "innovation is what we do best." The hologram shifted one last time, showing something that made Orcs' blood freeze. Detailed schematics of the Hegemony homeworld's defense systems. "We know where your Empire's heart is," Hill said quietly. "We know its weaknesses. We know how to strike it if necessary." "What do you want?" Orcs asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Peace," Hill replied simply. "Recognition of Earth, and all human colonies as sovereign and independent, a non-aggression pact, fair trade agreements, and," he paused, "an end to your conquest of pre-spaceflight civilizations." Orcs looked at the humans with new eyes. Not as primitive beings to be conquered, but as something the hegemony had never encountered before, equals, perhaps even superiors in some ways. "The Hegemony Council will never agree to these terms," he said finally. Hill's expression hardened. "Then the Council should see this." He activated another hologram, a recording of the battle, showing human ships systematically dismantling the most powerful fleet in the galaxy. "We could have destroyed every ship," Hill noted. "We chose to let some escape as witnesses. Your Council has 2 options: peace with humanity, or a war you cannot win." For the first time in his long military career, High Commander Orcs felt something he had never experienced before: the cold certainty of defeat. Not just a tactical setback, but the knowledge that his civilization had met its match. The humans had warned them to run. Perhaps it was time the hegemony listened. 6 months after the battle that changed galactic history, a different kind of hegemony ship entered Earth's solar system. This one wasn't a warship but a diplomatic vessel, elegant and unarmed. It carried representatives from the Hegemony Council, the first peaceful delegation to Earth. In the newly constructed Planetary Alliance Center in Geneva, human leaders from all nations gathered. The Great Hall featured a circular table with equal positions for all representatives, a deliberate design choice to show that humans wouldn't accept any position of inferiority. General Hill stood by the window, watching as the alien ship descended through the clouds. He wore a formal military uniform instead of battle gear, though the sidearm at his hip wasn't just for show. "Nervous?" asked Dr. Logan, joining him at the window. Hill smiled slightly. "Cautious. The hegemony has never negotiated as equals before. I'm not sure they know how." "They'll learn," she replied, "just like we did." The main doors opened, and the hegemony delegation entered. Leading them was a surprise. Admiral Thax, now bearing the insignia of a diplomatic envoy rather than a military commander. Behind him walked 5 council representatives, each from a different species that made up the hegemony's ruling elite. President Chen of the United Earth Government stood to greet them. "Welcome to Earth, representatives of the Galactic hegemony. We meet today as equals to discuss the future of our civilizations." Thax stepped forward and performed a gesture none of the humans had seen before, a slight bow with his upper arms crossed. "On behalf of the Hegemony Council, I thank you for this opportunity. Recent events have changed our perspective." The formal negotiations began, with translators ensuring all parties understood each other perfectly. What should have been tense and difficult proceeded with surprising smoothness. The hegemony, faced with evidence of human technological prowess and military capability, was unexpectedly receptive to Earth's terms. During a break in the talks, Thax approached General Hill in the garden outside the main hall. "General," he said quietly, "may we speak privately?" Hill nodded, and they walked together among earth plants that Thax found strange yet beautiful. "I've been wondering something," Thax began. "After you defeated our fleet, you could have pressed your advantage. You could have attacked our core worlds. Why didn't you?" Hill looked at the alien thoughtfully. "That was discussed. Some military leaders wanted to strike first, before your empire could recover. What stopped you?" "Humanity has fought many wars among ourselves," Hill explained. "We've learned that how you end a war determines whether you'll have peace afterward. We don't want to be conquerors. We just want to be left alone." Thax was silent for a moment. "The Council has reviewed the data from the battle. Your technology, your tactics, they were superior to ours. This has never happened before. And that's exactly why we want peace," Hill replied. "We know what it means to face a technologically superior enemy. Throughout our history, some human civilizations destroyed others simply because they could. We don't want to repeat those mistakes on a galactic scale." Later that day, the treaty was finalized. Its terms were remarkable not for their harshness but for their fairness. Earth and all human colonies would be recognized as sovereign. The hegemony would establish trade relations, but no military presence in human space. Most importantly, the hegemony agreed to end forced conquests of pre-spaceflight civilizations. As the hegemony representatives prepared to leave Earth, President Chen addressed the gathered diplomats one final time. "Today marks a new chapter in galactic history," she said. "For the first time, the hegemony enters into an alliance of equals rather than a relationship of conqueror and conquered. We believe this will benefit both our civilizations." Thax stepped forward. "The hegemony has existed for 6,000 years. In that time, we conquered 1,000 worlds. We believe this was the natural order of the galaxy, the strong ruling the weak." He looked around at the human representatives. "Humanity has taught us something important. True strength isn't measured by the ability to conquer, but by the wisdom to know when not to. We have much to learn from each other." As the hegemony ship lifted off from Earth, General Hill watched from the control tower. Dr. Logan stood beside him. "Do you think it will last?" she asked quietly. Hill nodded slowly. "I think it will. They're adaptable. They had to be to build their empire. And now they've adapted to a new reality. They're not alone at the top anymore. And humanity, what happens now?" Hill smiled. "Now we do what humans have always done best: explore, innovate, and build. But this time, we do it among the stars. Across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. A pre-FTL civilization had defeated the mighty hegemony and forced them to negotiate as equals. It was unprecedented. It was revolutionary. And for 1,000 subjugated worlds, it was something they hadn't felt in millennia. Hope.